Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in a recent video where we talked about how I'm generating over 25,000 views a month to my website, I shared in the video that one of the main ways we do that is actually through our blog and through SEO and people searching in Google and finding us. And I had a lot of you ask to do a follow-up video on SEO and exactly what that is, best practices, and things that you can start doing to start generating traffic like that to your own blog or website. So that's what we're going to do. This is a breakdown from a non-SEO expert or guru. I'm just someone who knows the basics of SEO and how it works and how you can easily implement some really good SEO practices into your own blog or website and maybe see similar results. So let's chat about first, what even is SEO? So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And essentially what that means is what are the chances of your website page or your website blog showing up on Google when someone types something in, right? So when you go to Google and you are, searching for something or typing something in, the websites that pop up at the top below the ones that are paid ads are the ones that generally have good SEO, or they do a really good job of ranking in Google through having good SEO practices in their blog or website. And so essentially, the better your SEO, the higher your chances are of someone searching something and then coming across your website or your blog or whatever by searching that on Google. All right, so now that you know what SEO is, let's chat about now just a beginner overview of SEO and how you can get started and what are some things to think about when you are deciding to implement SEO into your brand. The first thing that I definitely would do is think about well, first of all, what makes sense for your brand, right? Like, it doesn't do you good to be ranking for Instagram Reels tutorials if you are a jewelry maker, right? So you want to make sure that the posts or the pages align with your brand, that it would make sense if someone searches something, that if they come across your website, that you're likely going to be of value to them. And that's also going to help your SEO if your website actually makes sense for the searches that people are finding it. But anyways, basically you want to make sure that you are thinking about it in that way. And my recommendation, especially when you're first starting, is to be more specific. Think about specific search terms versus just more generic search terms and how you can actually target more niche search terms. I feel like that's kind of a jumble to say, search terms, but how you can think about more specific things versus more broad searches. So for example, for me, I could, try to target Instagram tips. Like if someone searches Instagram tips into Google, I could see if I could target that keyword and get some of my posts to show up. And I might have some luck, but I'm probably gonna have better luck with something along the lines of Instagram Reels tutorial for beginners in 2022. See how that's a little bit more specific and how it's still something that somebody who would find my brand valuable and what I offer valuable, they probably would search something like that, but it's getting a little more specific. And hopefully that Instagram Reels tutorial for beginners, I'm actually sharing an Instagram Reels tutorial in that blog post, right? That's the idea behind it. But basically, think about more specific terms that you could try. I know back when I was a photographer, so as a service-based business owner, I was targeting keywords like Columbus, Ohio wedding photography or light and airy Ohio photography versus targeting Ohio photographer. And even though I did eventually rank for those more generic search terms, and obviously those get searched more often, which just means more people are searching them in Google. So the likelihood, if you're able to have good SEO on those terms, you're probably gonna get found by more people, but it also means it's usually more competitive. So starting off with some of these more niche targeted search terms can actually be more helpful in the end. Another thing that has been a game changer for me, and honestly just something that I did really early on that helped my SEO a lot and helped it skyrocket so fast, is that I was blogging consistently. So Google, when they're looking at your website, looking at your blog, they like to see websites and blogs that are constantly being updated and, given fresh content. And an easy way to do that is by posting blog posts. And so if you're already creating content like YouTube videos every week, or even like Instagram posts every week or Instagram Reels, you can turn those into blog posts or have a team member that turns them into blog posts, like my content writer, Christina. And it's not only giving your audience another place where they can consume your content, content in another format, right? Especially if you take YouTube videos and like transcribe them into copy on a blog post. It's also keeping your website fresh and updated. And Google tends to really, really like that. Like, again, going back to the photography example, when I first started as a photographer, I was blogging all of my photo sessions. I was making sure that I was sharing about the weddings that I was shooting. And that was not only getting me helping out with those more niche targeted keywords, for example, like for different wedding venues that maybe I was taking pictures at. It was also helping Google to see my website being refreshed and that it was something that wasn't just stagnant and sitting there for months and never getting changed. So that's something that you can implement into your content calendar or implement into the content you're creating if you want to help boost your SEO, especially thinking about how can you repurpose what you're already doing and turn those into blog posts so you're not having to write new blog posts every time. And again, ideally those blog posts will relate to your brand and what you do and make sense and help you to get to rank in some of those keywords. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about within those blog posts that you're sharing. There's some big things to keep in mind when it comes to just like different tools that are within blog posts that you want to make sure you're including that can be really helpful for getting that blog post actually ranked for a keyword. And actually here in a second, my content writer, Christina, who does the majority of my blog posts right now, she is going to walk you guys through within WordPress exactly how, like what this looks like, how to do these, how to think about these. But I'm just gonna give you a brief overview right now of some things. So you wanna have things like backlinks. So backlinks are when you are linking to something either outwardly or inwardly, another, website page. You wanna have a low bounce rate. So ideally, you want a lot of people who come onto your website or your blog to not instantly just click off. So a high bounce rate would mean that whatever percentage your bounce rate is, that's the percentage of people that are coming to that page and then immediately clicking off without clicking to any other page of your website. So you want to try to make sure you have a low bounce rate. You want to think about load times. So there's actually a tool at the end that I'll share about load times that can be really helpful. You can see how fast your website loads. Ideally, you want it under 3 seconds for a blog post or especially your website pages are critical to have it load really quickly. Again, think about how impatient we can be, right? When you're on a website or a blog, like how long are you willing to wait? Probably not super long. So keeping your page load times down by resizing images, compressing them, making sure they don't take up a ton of space on your blog or on your website is very important. Things within the blog post to keep in mind: page titles, alt text. So alt text is a great way to basically tell Google what an image is. And again, Christina is going to walk you through that, but also for those who are visually impaired viewing your website or viewing your blog post, they're able to see, get a description of what your image is without having to actually view it if they're not able to view it as well. And so And in addition, it just tells Google, again, it's another place to tell Google what the blog is about or things like that. You also want to think about your copy. So making sure the copy obviously is talking about whatever the topic is. You're including good keywords throughout. For example, if I'm doing a blog post on Instagram Reels, making sure I'm including the word Reels throughout the copy. It means we don't want to keyword stuff, so we don't want to just put Reels in every single sentence that we can, but we want to make sure we're being intentional about including it somewhat throughout the copy. So if some of that didn't make sense, you're like, what in the world even is that? Now we're gonna jump over to Christina, and she's actually has her laptop ready, and she's going to walk you through how to do this on the back end of WordPress. So WordPress is what I know the majority of you use, but it works very similarly if you use anything else for your blog. And she's gonna walk you through these different tools when you're creating a blog post and what are some, how you're supposed to format these, what to think about, and all of those things.
Hi, I'm Christina Dowler. I'm Stephanie Case's content writer, and today I'm going to show you how to optimize 2 different kinds of posts in a WordPress draft along with the Yoast SEO plugin. So there's certainly other platforms you could use to blog. We use WordPress. It's probably my favorite platform, but you can certainly use whichever one you want. And same goes with Yoast. It's one of many kinds of plugins that'll do the same thing. I just think it's really easy to use, really easy to understand and follow, which is why I like to use it. So I'm going to show you how to optimize an educational post today, and then one that's more personal, and the same principles will apply to a session or engagement session or wedding that you might be blogging. The same ideas will still apply. So we're gonna walk through the educational post first here on the WordPress draft. So the first thing I like to do when I'm preparing a blog post is to put my copy in. I just write it or copy and paste it, whatever works for you. And then when I'm working on educational posts, there's usually some other component like a YouTube video or a podcast episode that's being embedded. So I immediately embed that as well. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to start to format my post. So one of the things you want to include when you're optimizing a post for SEO purposes are headers. So you're going to highlight the text that you want, select either heading 2 or heading 3, try to avoid heading 1. And this is just going to break up your post. It's going to make it easier to read. It kind of gives Google something else to grab onto in terms of what is this post about. So, you know, for Stephanie's, we break it down by topic. So that might mean, you know, if we're talking about Reels, maybe we're breaking it down into, okay, what do we film? Okay, let's talk about that. Now we're gonna break the next step, like how do we edit it? And so our headers are kind of just breaking up that copy in that way. Usually you wanna try to include your keywords in at least one header. If it seems natural, don't force it. But you definitely wanna try to include it there. So I like to go through my posts and I just like to get all my headers done first, because usually when I'm writing them, I'm writing those headers in as well. And just make sure everything's formatted. Then I like to scroll down, and for us, Yoast is the bottom of our post. That may not be the case for you. It could be on the side, it could be on somewhere else, but just find where the plugin lives, and this is where you're going to start modifying things for SEO purposes. So the first thing you're going to want to do is decide on your key phrase. There's sites that you can search this, but essentially your key phrase or your keyword should be something that somebody's searching, and it should be related to the topic you're blogging about. So when it's an educational post, like this one is about slow motion reels, so our keyword is going to be probably slow-mo reels or slow motion reels, because that's something somebody's going to be looking for. We want this post to be flagged like, hey, this is useful information. So you're going to type that into this focus key phrase box. So we're going to pick slow-mo reels. You want your key phrase to probably be no more than 5 words. Occasionally you'll see long word phrases, but for the most part you want it to be shorter. So put that in the focus key phrase box, and then you're going to scroll down. The next thing you're going to edit is your SEO title, your slug, which is your URL, and your meta description. So the thing about these 3 items is that they're searchable on Google. So a lot of people ignore them and just leave whatever, you know, auto populates. But the thing is, like, this is space that Google is searching. They're looking for information. They're trying to figure out if this post is going to help somebody based on their query. So use this to your advantage. Take the time to fill this out. It only takes a minute or so to kind of optimize this section. So the first thing you want to do is the SEO title. That's the title that's going to appear on Google when you search. So when you type in, how do I make slow motion reels on Google, the thing that's going to pop up, the first thing you see are those titles. That's what we're writing right now, the slow motion reel. So we're going to put here slow-mo reels tutorial for 2022 Instagram users, or 2022 maybe tips for small business owners. So you can play with that. I mean, you can certainly title whatever you want, but make sure your keywords are in there. Make sure it's very clear what your post is about. And I would do, you don't need to put your name. You don't need to put where you are necessarily. Just put your key phrase in there and make sure it's very clear who your post is for. Your slug should contain your key phrase, so slow motion reels. Maybe I'm going to add tutorial 2022. And then the meta description is when you search on Google, that little gray box, that little gray section of font beneath that title, that's the meta description. Again, a lot of people leave it blank when they're optimizing posts, or they'll pull from their first paragraph, and those are fine, but I think you have the option here to really take the time to go through and make this searchable and fill it with that information that people are looking for, so it's more likely to get flagged by Google and passed on to the person who's looking for that information. So for this, we're gonna put slow-mo reels tutorial for 2022, shared by online business educator Stephanie Case, for Instagram users looking to grow their account with Reels. So make sure everything's spelled right. That's the only thing, there is no spell check on there. But again, I'm putting what it's about, I'm sharing who it's for, I'm sharing who's sharing the post. So this is just a space, again, for you to highlight what's going on, who's doing what, that kind of thing. So you fill all that out. Then you're gonna go back to your post and make sure that your keyword is in the very beginning paragraph of your text. So if it's not there, make sure you add it. So right now we're calling it slow-mo reel, so we're gonna change this to slow-mo reel. And then we're going to want to make sure whatever we've embedded, whether it's a podcast episode, YouTube, an image, we're going to go ahead and do the alt text. This is something else that a lot of people tend to forget about. This is, again, alt text allows your images, your videos to become searchable. So think about Google is a computer, so it can't see what an image is. It can't see what a thumbnail is. It can't see what a video is, right? So we have to provide that information, and we do that via alt text. So you'll click on the edit button. You're gonna make sure your code is correct. Your title, so we're gonna put slow-mo reels tutorial for 2022. And the description for SEO. So this is where you're gonna describe what your video is about. So it's a slow-mo reels tutorial, business owners. And that's fine. You don't need to go too crazy here. You don't need to always keyword stuff. Doesn't need to be like every other word is your keyword. Just make sure you're sharing what the video is about. And then just hit update and let it load. And then the final thing we always want to do is add our feature image and make sure that our alt text has been done. So the thumbnail, you're going to pick your image. Make sure that when you add images to your blog that you rename them. So when I say rename, I mean we don't want it to say image number 1, JPEG 1. We want it to have something related to the post. So for educational, it might be the topic. So this one's going to be named slow motion reels or slow-mo reels, Stephanie Case. For a wedding or session, it might be, you know, intimate elopement at the location, underscore your name. So the reason we do this again is because Google can search that information, and we want to provide as many opportunities as we can for Google to latch onto our post. So we want to put it in the text, we want to put it on our images, we want to put it on our alt text, we want to put it on the meta description, anything where we can put what this post is about and where it is and something that somebody might be searching. So again, your keywords, that's what we want to do. We want to give Google all these opportunities to grab at our post. So we've got our thumbnail loaded in, and it's been renamed, and we're going to add the alt text. So for something like this, you're just going to put slow-mo reel. So again, it's the topic, your keyword, tutorial for 2022, shared by Stephanie Case, small or online, we'll do online business educator. And if we'll go over this in the personal post section, but if you have a post that's going to be for personal reasons, so you have more images or a wedding or a session, then the alt text, what you're going to do is going to be slightly different. But we'll go over that in a second. So to do that, we're going to add our feature image. Okay, now we're going to come back down to Yoast, and we're just going to review what we've done. This is why I love Yoast, because it tells us exactly what we've done wrong or haven't completed yet, and that's what I love. So the thing that we've missed and we haven't talked about yet are links. So links in your blog posts are really important. You want to have both external links and internal links. So external means you're linking to something like perhaps a venue or a vendor. You might be linking to your YouTube channel or your podcast. Those are all external links, something that's not housed on your website. That's really good for SEO. The other thing you want to do is find internal links on your own site to link to. So these are things like other blog posts or a landing page or a sales page, whatever it is that makes sense in the context of your post. So we haven't done that yet, but we have some notes in our copy where we want to connect with tutorials. So this is the Instagram tutorial. So if you just highlight the text, you're able to search your own site and then select the link that you want to include. And I like to, make it bold so it's really obvious. And then we also do take the time to go in and have it open in a new tab. You don't have to do that. It really just depends what the link is and what you want to do. And then we're going to also link to another video. So this was no photos. There it is. And we will have it open in a new tab, and we're going to make it bold. So we've added our links, and now if we go back down to Yoast, we'll see what else it says. So sometimes you do have to, save the draft and let it kind of refresh, and then double check the scoring then. So now we've got great optimization. So good. See, so that's what I love about Yoast. It makes it very clear. You have green is good, you have orange is moderate, and red is bad. So it makes it really obvious have you done what you need to do. And that's what I love about it. Super, super easy. All right, and there we go. We've got an optimized post. So that's awesome. So again, to recap, we've got our keyword in our beginning paragraph. We've got an image, video, podcast, whatever thing that we're embedding to link to. That's got strong alt text. It's been added in. And we have copy that flows well, that has headers that relate to our topic. We've got internal links and external links. Again, that YouTube video is our external link. We have optimized our SEO title, slug or URL, and our meta description. We've added a feature image that also has updated alt text. We've added our category, and everything's working perfectly. So that's what we want when we're doing an educational post. Next, I want to go over how to optimize a personal post or a session post. So something like a wedding, a photography session, a family session, things like that, where you're going to have more images in the post. The same concepts are going to apply to the copy. You still want to have your keyword in the beginning paragraph. You still want to use headers. You're still going to want to optimize the SEO, title, the slug, the meta description, all of those things. So as you can see, that's what I've prepared in this draft already. We've added our copy, we've optimized all of this information again, but now we need to add photos. So what I like to do is add my photos into the media gallery, and then you need to add alt text. There's a few things you need to remember here. Alt text is really important for imagery on a blog. Again, Google is a computer. It doesn't have eyes. It can't see that this is an image of a woman. You know, we have to tell Google that it's an image of a woman standing in a flower field with a wide-brimmed hat. That way it knows what it's looking at, where to share it. It knows who to share it with. So that's why alt text is really important. A lot of people skip this step, but it's a great space to add SEO components for Google to pull at. So all you have to do is select the image. There's going to be a box that says alt text, and you're going to write what the image is. You're going to describe the image. So we're going to say woman in white shirt holding wide brimmed hat in flower field. Oops. Field in Ohio. And that's all you need to do. And then we're going to make sure there's no captions. That just means when you put the image in, there's nothing underneath of it. And we're going to do that for all the images we want to add. So woman holds dog in flower field during you pick flower date night. So you can include your keyword or the location. You just want to make sure you don't do it in every single image. It's not necessary on every single image. You make sure it makes sense. Like, you know, we're saying that field is at this venue, and that makes sense in the context, but don't just say, you know, Ohio wedding photographer, Ohio wedding photographer, Ohio wedding photographer on every post. That's not what you want on every photo. That's not what you want to do. And it's really not good for SEO, but use it sparingly where it makes sense. So, you know, we've got another one here. It goes, man holds bouquet of flowers above dog jumping in flower field. And you're just going to do the same for all of the images you're going to include. So that's all you have to do. One of the questions I'm asked often is on a wedding, like when you have, you know, maybe 50 or 80 images in your blog, do I need to do alt text on every single one? And my recommendation is yes. If you're out of time, if you really need to get it posted, something like that, then do it on at least half. But the more that you optimize, the better, right? The better chances you have of Google picking up your site and your blog. So once you're ready, you're just going to insert them into the post. And you can just, you know, you can select multiple and insert them in. You're going to want to make sure you set your feature image. So let's just say that's our feature image. It could be anything, right? And you're going to scroll down and you'll look and you'll say, oh, my SEO is good. So that's why I like Yoast. It's really easy to check. It's really easy to see where you are at any given time with the optimization of your post. And that's really it when it comes to SEO and optimizing blog posts. It's a lot simpler than people think. It's with this really scary concept. What do I have to do? What are my keywords? Keep it simple. What are people searching for? Those need to be your keywords. Where are you located? That can be a keyword. What is your post about if it's an educational piece? Those are the kind of things you need to decide. And then you just use that and use the tools at your hand via Yoast. I mean, it will tell you explicitly what to do if it's not optimized. You just scroll down, and if you click on this little drop down, it breaks down what you've done well, what you could still modify. It doesn't all have to be green. You can leave a few things in the red if overall your post is green. I firmly believe that. So that's how you optimize a blog post. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, please let us know. Stephanie and I would both be thrilled to answer your questions. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Christina, for walking us through all of that. I know you guys probably found that so helpful. So now I just want to wrap up by sharing what are some best practices for SEO as you move forward and as you start implementing all of these different things. What are some other things to keep in mind that will help your SEO to only be even better, and some just easy things you can do as you're creating blog posts that is going to help your SEO. So the first one is to use Yoast SEO, right? So Christina was using that tool, Yoast. It's a free plugin you can add to your WordPress, and something like that could be a really helpful tool to make sure that your blog posts or even website pages are optimized for SEO for whatever keywords that you want to rank for. Another thing to keep in mind, don't keyword stuff. Again, I mentioned this earlier in the video, but just keep in mind that while you want to include the keywords that relate to your blog or your video or your photos, make sure you're being careful to not include the same exact keywords in every single alt text, every single title, every single description. While you wanna make sure you're including them throughout. Make sure it feels very organic and natural and still like sentences that you would actually say, right? Another thing to keep in mind, image resizing. So I typically recommend doing something around 2,000 pixels on the long edge. And you can actually use a program that's a free program called TinyJPEG to resize your images. So that's one option. We'll have a link below if you want to check that out. I've also used BlogStomp to resize images, and you can also make collages. It is a paid program, but we'll have that linked below as well if you want to check that out. If you're someone who creates a lot of blog posts that might have a lot of images, like Christina shared at the end. And then a couple other tools. So Kingdom is also a really great free website. You can type in your website page and it will tell you your website page load time. So like we talked about earlier, how that can be really important. People don't want to wait 10, 15, 20 seconds to load your website. And so just make sure your pages are loading ideally under 3 seconds, but as fast as possible is really ideal. Lastly, I really encourage you to set up Google Analytics. We'll actually put a link here and right below of that video that I talked about earlier, how we do 25,000 views plus a month on my website, and I actually walk you through some of my Google Analytics and exactly like how that works. So if you're curious to learn more about that, be sure to head there, but I highly recommend setting this up as soon as possible, because even if you're not utilizing the tools right away, Google will start tracking your analytics for you, and you can go back and see. Like, it's just so cool now. I can go back years ago and see what my analytics were, you know, back in 2015 or 2016 up until now, and see the difference and see how things have grown. So in addition to that, obviously, it's just a really helpful tool to be able to use for your website and see how people are finding you and all of that, which I talk more about in the other video. So be sure to head over and watch that next if you want to learn more about that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, anything else about website, blogging, SEO that you want us to cover, be sure to drop a comment. Again, this video came from you guys asking for another video on this, and so we want these to be really helpful for you. We want to make sure that these are videos, that the videos we share every week are going to help you in whatever you need help with. So comment with any questions. We would love to be a resource for you. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because we upload a new video actually every Tuesday. So if you want to stay up to date on new videos, be sure to do that. And we would love to have you stick around, and I guess we'll see you next week. Bye guys.